the addiction's real. The sneaky link up, the sneaky real one right there is, oh, the mango.
May you introduce yourself like in a few words?
Yeah, I'm a Pepsi lover, as my big gulp just went through there. Yeah, I'm Reis, also known as Reisshub. Fortnite Analyst extraordinaire, aka I just like to make YouTube videos talking about the competitive side of Fortnite and try to make them the best I possibly can. I'd say that's usually the easiest way to do it.
So you were born September 24th of 1993, if I'm not wrong, in Scotland.
Correct.
We'll speak about it a bit
Yes.
later. So you were born when video games started being really popular. Can you explain us a bit how you got into video games?
Yeah, my first video game. Wonder if I have it around here. Actually, I'm a big Pokemon fan. My first video game that I remember, and there may have been one before it, but it was Pokemon Red. So the first Pokemon game ever for the, I was gonna say the Game Boy Color, but it was just the Game Boy at that point. And I know I think mum got it for me like a Christmas or a birthday because my brother got blue and I got red. And that was like my first introduction. I was hooked. I used to carry that thing everywhere with me. There we go. There's an ST. I have a Game Boy at hand almost at all times. So that was kind of my first introduction, and then we got. I'm trying to remember what the chronicling of it was, but we definitely got a Nintendo 64 as well. Very soon after that, my brother got a PlayStation 1, but I got a Nintendo 64. So I played like Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, like all of these like really OG games for the old school Nintendo consoles, and fell in love really at that point. And I had the claim to fame of being the best GoldenEye player in the school, but I feel like that's like if you speak to anyone my age, they all say the same thing.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting actually.
Uh-huh.
When you discovered Fortnite, I guess you didn't
Mm,
know it will become your full-time job. What did you
no.
want to do before having this opportunity?
So and that's an interesting one because like I already had a career. Like I was doing a construction cost consultancy. I'm a full-fledged adult. I went to university. I was making money just doing my own thing. I had a whole career, and like the Fortnite thing kind of came as like an accident more than anything else. Like I didn't really know that I wanted to do this, as I think many people end up in this job have the same kind of experience as that, because I was doing a job. I'd actually stopped playing a lot of video games at the time because I was working a ton. And then I jumped on the Xbox and I saw my friend Tom was playing, and it just said like Fortnite. I was like, I heard a couple things about that game, and I messaged him. I was like, "Is it good?" And all he replied was, "It's free." And I was like, "Ah, awesome! What more do I need to know?" So jumped on, played that, and then just kind of like fell in love with that. And then basically for me, what ended up happening was like COVID hit, and I lost my job via that. But I was already doing, because I just moved company. So I just moved company like a month before to a new place, and then like COVID hit, all the lockdowns happened, and they had to like get rid of like a third of their staff, and I just joined. So it's like bad timing for me. Yeah, but I'd started YouTube and I'd started doing well. I think I had like 20K at that time. And I was just like, man, I'm gonna give this a shot. And then like Epic picked me up to do the broadcast, which helped like monetarily at that time. So it kind of like it just accidentally happened more than anything else.
What was your best
Mm.
moment for you in your career,
Ooh.
in your Fortnite career?
Ooh. Oh man, no one's ever asked me that before. That's actually a good
Yeah.
question. I would probably say maybe it's a bit of an odd one, but there's two that come to mind off the dome. The first one would be doing like the first broadcast in person. I think I ever did, like with Epic. I think that was probably one of my best ones because it was a bit of like a surreal moment. Or actually, no, I'll retract that one because it was for the same answer. The first DreamHack I ever went to, I think that was probably the best moment for me. Nothing to do with like my performance or anything or analysis, casting, anything to do with that. But that was kind of the moment that I feel like a lot of it got real because everything had been online for 2 years at that point. We'd just been talking to like literally sitting like this, speaking to a camera, or making YouTube videos and things like that. But once you go to the first DreamHack and it was people in person, and there was like people coming up to me and just being like, "Yo, I love your YouTube videos," or "I love your analysis," and like people who were just like genuinely excited to talk to me, and of course I was excited to talk to a lot of other people as well. That almost like made it become real, which sounds odd because we were all trapped in a bit of a bubble for 2 years just doing stuff online, and then getting to go out, meet people, meet the community. I have people say nice things about me when I was like, whoa, people are excited to talk to me, like what the hell, this is a new one.
Like that.
Absolutely not. So I think that was, I would say, definitely the moment that made it like real, because I feel like you can often get trapped behind like the numbers, which ironically the other part I was going to say is my other best moment would be like probably hitting like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, because that another was like just a big momentous occasion. But that kind of ties into the other one where it's 100,000 people, but you often think about it like 100,000, it was just a number, but you forget that there's like people, personalities, all like behind all of those as well. So making that real at DreamHack was definitely, I think, the best one for me.
I guess that was like a reward for all the good work you've done like during few years.
True. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it as well, because what was really odd is always like people come up and they'd say like, oh, I love this random video that I made like a year ago or something like that, or whatever it was, and I thought, man, that's odd that I maybe made that for like a day or two, and someone watched that and they were like, oh yeah, this is stuck with me, and like this is the thing that's been stuck in my mind. And that definitely like just opened my mind more to it sounds odd, and I'm just making Fortnite videos, but it's odd to say like the impact that the content has, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right, let's talk a little bit more on YouTube. You published your first video on YouTube 3.5 years ago, January 11th of 2020, so a bit before the lockdown. The beginning of a long journey, of course, and this video was already Fortnite tips. That was how to make a cone through walls. How did the idea of making Fortnite tips and content came to your mind?
That's a good question, because that for me was, I was already helping people, or like trying to, on Reddit at the time, because at that time I was a mod on the Fortnite competitive Reddit, and the reason I became a mod initially was just because I was just replying to a bunch of these posts. It was a bit more active at that time, and I was just replying to posts like, people ask for tips, whatever it was. I was always like trying to help people as much as I can, and it was interesting because a lot of the answers I had were because of things that I sucked at. Like, I was a player for a long time, not a good one by any means, but everything that I struggled with, I ended up like trying to figure out ways and solutions around that. And I was posting these on Reddit. And then I was like, well, I might as well make some little videos of cool things I found. So I started to make these small little videos. And then like Balla TW was doing a bunch of like big VOD reviews at the time. I know a lot of other people were making like long 1.5 hour VOD reviews. Like Monster D-Fish was doing the same thing as well. And I kind of sat and I thought, I was doing these small little tips. They're doing well. I thought, why don't I just kind of develop that into, why don't I just do like a 5-minute VOD review, rather than all these people just doing like a really long 1 hour or something that's not as digestible. And that came like my first actual like VOD review analysis video, which the first one there's two. The second one was the console one at the time, and I remember that got like 10,000 views, and I was like, whoa, this is unreal. This is like the one of the first like early videos I did, and that one's kept growing since then, which is also very funny. But that kind of showed me that people were interested in that style of content, so it was easy to keep it going, because it was something that I was just doing to help myself, because I was like, I suck at these things, so I'll try find the solutions and put them into a video, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Today, when we think about an analyst, we often link this role to the role or to the job of a coach. Did you ever think about a career as a coach?
Yeah, I was coaching people around that time as well. So when I first got into it, around that first year, I did multiple different styles of coaching. Very low level at the start, right? So it's either working with people who were generally not that great, and it was mainly just people who DM'd me, because there was weird. What I think about now, no one DMs me asking for coaching, and I'm not coaching anymore, so like that's good. But back then, everyone DM'd me for coaching on Twitter, and I thought, well, I thought that's a good way to learn. It's a good way to speak to more people. It definitely helped me out, and obviously I was helping other people out, and I was making money. So it's like it works all the way around. It's free, and I was like, awesome. What more do I need to know? And I was basically helping a lot of people who were more lower level players. So I'd like VOD review with them and like get whatever, basically just like a VOD review session for an hour on a tournament. And it ended up like a lot more people ended up being interested than I thought. Like I had a bunch of pros that I was working with. Well, I'm trying to say a bunch. I know I was working with Rojo for a while. And just VOD reviewing some of his games around chapter the solo season, around chapter 2, season 3. Yeah, so around that kind of period. I think like a bunch of other people who have earned, but I think he was really the only like pro I worked with when I think back to it. But I learned a lot doing that, and it was really fun. But I think the biggest problem with coaching in my eyes is that it's not very scalable, like financially scalable. The only way that you can make more money doing it in a sense is just by like charging a higher rate, and it becomes not very feasible for a lot of people after a while, or taking a percentage basically. It's one of those two things. And for me, like, I like to have a certain amount of time in my week, and I'm already very pushed for that time, and like to put a bunch of that time into coaching now, for example, would be a bit tough. I have thought about it, but it's hard to make it financially worth it, if that makes sense now. But back then, it was something I was definitely interested in. It really helped, I think, my progression as an analyst in the early days.
So never Coach Reisshub. That's not planned.
Nah, I mean, not anytime soon.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Unless like YouTube ad revenue and all of these other things totally goes down the drain, and I have to make a living in another way in Fortnite. But right now, probably not. I have thought about taking on a duo for a season and free of charge, but like I can basically, in a way that I would like half farm them for content and half help them for free, So it's like, hey, get invested in this duo, and I'm going to make a bunch of content on them, and here's like the mistakes they're making, here's how we're trying to help them and improve and try work with them. But it's a difficult one to do, because I would want to do it with a good level team, but I also don't want to just like, it's odd to say I don't know what I don't really know what my impact would be, and I don't know how good it would be of a content series, and more importantly, I don't know how much it would help like the players, because it depends how much more above their knowledge is than mine already. But yeah, it's something I've thought about, definitely.
It could have been interesting actually to have like one duo working with only an analyst, because I know a lot of good teams just want an analyst and no strategy aspect, or no really like coaching aspect, just analyzing few games, finding mistake and things like that. So I think that could have been interesting, and yeah, and why not in the future, as you say, if you find a bit more time or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, even just for like one duo is fine to work with. It depends. It's like, even if it was just for like FNCS weeks or something like that, but like, hey, I'm gonna VOD review every game of yours every FNCS week for free. All you need to do is sit in a call and chat with me, and while I do it, or something like that. That's good content, and it's free help for them. So there is something I thought like that could help everyone involved, and it would be good. But it's just something I've not like actually knuckled down, spoken to any pros about yet. So
let's go on to another question. January 15th, you made probably one of the hardest tweet possible for you, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of which I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Leaving the scene, man.
Yeah. While 4 days ago you reached 100,000 subscriber on your channel, this exact day you announced the departure from Fortnite Official Broadcast and announced you will probably be slightly stepping out of Fortnite. Did you feel this decision of Fortnite has a betray, or did they explain you, or you understood why such a decision?
All of the above. It was a bit of a mixed bag, unfortunately. It never really said much to me. They just stopped hiring me, essentially, in the short term, the easiest way to put it. So, I mean, at the time, I definitely felt betrayed in that sense, because it's something I put like a lot of time into. And I put a lot of time into it in a way that sacrificed, I would say, my own growth. So like YouTube, Twitch, and all things. Like, the reason I didn't stream at all basically during the time is because it was just like I had time prepping for broadcasts instead. So like, I definitely sacrificed a lot of my own growth and put a lot more time into like the broadcast analyst side of things. So to stop being hired definitely did, I will say, yeah, definitely felt like a betrayal at the time. And the problem was then it was like YouTube content was doing really poorly pretty much across the board. Oh, like I could have done things better myself at that time, but I think like looking at a lot of the Fortnite channels at the end of chapter 3, a lot of the content was doing really poorly. Like every channel I was looking at was bad. Everyone was down by like 40% or something like that, and the money was just like not sustainable. So I kind of made the decision to cut off and just go, you know what, I'm gonna move to another like IRL YouTube channel and build that up instead. And essentially, after 2 months of doing that, channel's, I mean, it's like 30k subscribers now, which is my Reese Explains the other side of things, and it's done good. But then I was like, well, it doesn't make sense just to make no money because, like, you know, if you've ever started a YouTube channel from scratch, you'll know from the start you're making £0. And I thought, well, I've just made no money for 2 months. I mean, literally zero. So I might as well make some Fortnite content as I go, you know, make a little bit and continue to grow both of these. And then I started making the content, and it was like just picked up and flew off again. So obviously that pulled me back in, and I'm trying to also still do the other channel at the same time. But as I said, like, my time is very limited because doing the one channel is bad enough. But I'm trying to balance both of those things now so that I have like the Fortnite side of things and then like another YouTube channel that in case the Fortnite stuff totally falls apart in.
I know what you mean. That's interesting,
Yeah.
actually. But yeah, pro of time again.
Yeah, exactly. It's you know, I've looked for people like to try and
making like
I want to clone myself. Like that would be ideal. Like if I could have two of me, that would be amazing. Like someone who can analyze Fortnite and has like a deep knowledge of the game and like how to make content. I'd be like, perfect. I'll fucking sign me up, man. Get in here, and we can make some great content. But it's like there's like one guy who can do that, and he works for Blast. so I'm like, oh well, it's too late. So you know, he's already, his time is taken. So
Tokyo
it's
I've
the big Nolar, he's the man. He's the guy who knows that he can do it all. There's maybe other people out there, but I've not seen them yet. Which is interesting because like having someone to help me on that would be so useful. But then it's also like, yeah, I can't clone myself. So I have the knowledge. And what's interesting is when I've thought about a lot of these things, the stuff that most other people can do is the stuff that I can do quickly. Like editing doesn't take me a long time. It's actually, I can do it really quickly. So like giving that to someone else isn't a problem. In the time it would take me to tell them what to do, I could have probably edited it. The problem is like constructing videos, getting clips, pulling them all together and things like that, where you need like a deep knowledge of Fortnite, but also a deep knowledge of how to make good videos. So that's where the problem lies for me.
But out of the great quality of an analyst, as you said in your tweet, stepping away from Fortnite, you said you felt you reached your goal being the best analyst in the game, which was the biggest part of your branding, and your name was linked to this analytical quality. But you're also known for a really controversial opinion that you just showed me previously. You were proud of. So you wrote in your bio, Pepsi addict.
Yes, the addiction is real.
Is there any specific reason of that highlighting it, or was it just fun?
So Pepsi addict. So I mean, you know, as you can tell, come on, Pepsi, just sponsor, man. You know, I'm doing what I can here. Firstly, shouldn't be a controversial opinion because it clears Coke by miles. But I mean, realistically, like I have a real sweet tooth. Not only that, I don't like coffee at all, so I really hate bitter things. So this is actually the secret to my Pepsi Max addiction is this is actually like my coffee. This is my caffeine kick. It's obviously a lot less than a normal coffee, but I also have a sweet tooth, massively. So it ticks two boxes for me. I can have something sweet and tasty whilst simultaneously not eating sweet foods. So you know that helps, and I get my caffeine kick in the morning. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag of everything, and it just tastes good. Like it's just amazing. Like what more do you want out of a drink?
Coke's dog shit compared to Pepsi. We need to talk about it.
Absolutely. I know. Pepsi Max clears. Pepsi Max clears. I'm telling you.
Yeah. We all know how hard it can be to reach our goals. What's your source of motivation to wake up every day, go to work, and continue having all this YouTube content going on?
There's no other option. I think what you see with a lot of people who I don't say like have successful YouTube channels, but make like a successful living for themselves in any way, is that there's not really another option. You know, like that deep down is probably a lot of people's motivations. Like, if I don't get up every day and make videos and, you know, keep the income rolling in, well, I make no money. So that doesn't bode well as a 30-year-old. So
your fridge, your empty fridge is the reason why.
Exactly, right? And it's like, it's odd to say that in a sense where it's like talking about money is often like cliche, or not cliche, taboo, and you know, people often don't like to go down that route, but I mean, you at a certain point in your life, you have to think about the money as well, you know? So I think that for me is what drives me to make a lot of content, because for me, like my real vision and what I really love to do is make like big, high quality pieces of content. Like, you know, the Cuisine Vino documentary I did was like a real. That's the kind of videos I want to make, right? Like a big, long, yeah, exactly. Like something that might take me 2 weeks to make. That's great. But the problem with making that style of content is that realistically, like if you spend 2 weeks doing something and it doesn't perform well, then that's like a lot of uploads you've missed. Because I can do 2 videos a week, so I could have put 4 videos out in that time, and if they all performed roughly the same, 4 videos will make more money than 1. But so that's kind of the thought process for me is, you know, what drives me is really trying to make those big, amazing videos, but what makes me continually making other pieces of content is the fact that I also just need to make money at the same time. And you know, let's add to the bottom piece of that, which would be I do just love making it, right? Like I love making videos, I love making content. Sometimes it can be a drag. It becomes a job at a certain point, just like everything. Like, you know, sometimes some things are just a drag, but ultimately, like I just love making videos and seeing the impact it's had on people and it is unbelievable. Like when I said about DreamHack, the amount of pros who've come up to me and said like, "Oh, I love this video. I love this video. You made a video about me here. I've watched it so many times." I was like, you know, that surprises me every single time. So there's a lot of different avenues that I would say that motivate me to keep going. Definitely.
Let's talk a bit, not on the YouTube this part, but more as a caster. Probably something you have been extremely proud of. You recently were hired as an official caster of the Redbull LAN in Edinburgh. I apologize for the pronunciation if wrong. And all the events.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Nice. That's nice actually. And all
Most
the
people
events.
say Edinburgh, and I hear that, and I'm like, oh man.
I spent hours training my pronunciation. No worries.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Nice. And all the event took place in the Mac E1 Hall, one of the most important buildings in Edinburgh. What was your feeling getting invited there?
And that was awesome. That was really cool because, like, you know, obviously as someone Scottish, being able to do an event in Scotland is amazing. And I lived in Edinburgh for 8 years, so being able to do a show in like my hometown, well, it's my second home. It's my favorite city in the world. So being able to do a show in my second home was amazing. And it's always really good just to do any LAN event with any other players, because what's interesting is I always find it's very similar to just doing an event online. Like once you get used to speaking at a camera like this, it's the same no matter where you are. Like if there's a crowd of people behind you and all the players, it's exactly the same as doing it in your bedroom, just with a little bit more nerves before you start, and that's it. But being able to like walk through that building and you look up and there's like these, you know, it's the broadcast probably didn't show it as well as it could have. Like there were so many good shots they put in, but it's nothing like. Well, I need to word that better. That's not what I meant. They showed a good job of it on the broadcast, but it's nothing like being there in person. And like you look up and you just see like one of the most beautiful architectural buildings you've ever been in your life, and you sit there and you go, "How am I doing a Fortnite event in this place? Like this doesn't make any sense. Like there's such a contradiction here." But it was truly amazing to do an event in a place like that, and in particular in Scotland as well.
Yeah, a lot of pride, I guess. But
Definitely
Edinburgh's
hometown.
second favorite city? Not the first one?
Favorite. Gotta be favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my second. It was my second home because I lived there for a long time, but it's my favorite city. Yeah.
That's nice. If Fortnite would like to sign you next year to be caster or analyst again on the official broadcast, would you go back there?
Yeah. I mean, I would. Like, it's I at the end of the day, I love talking about Fortnite and I love analyzing. So I have no like hard. What's the word? I don't hold any grudges or anything like that. Like, realistically, they can do whatever they want with hiring whoever they want. Like, it's a business, you know. One person fits whatever it is, they can hire them. If they don't, then it doesn't. You know, like whether or not I and clearly all of the community agree with that decision or not is irrelevant. You know, like you can sit back and say, "Oh, this is bullshit. This is unfair." But realistically, like, a company can hire anyone they want for any role that they want. And you know, I was annoyed at the start and for the first like few months, definitely. But like, after a while, it's like, you know what, it's their decision. They can do whatever they want with it. I don't run the broadcast. You know, I put a lot of effort into trying. My goal often there was to like legitimize Fortnite esports a little bit more and try and have like a serious, I want to say like a broadcast that competes with like other esports in a sense, like that level. If you watch analysts and casters from other games, like they're just leagues ahead of a lot of people in Fortnite, and I don't mean that to like detriment. I'm including myself in that. I'm including myself there, right? Like I know they're so good. They're true professionals, and I want to try and like bring the level up to that standard, you know. And I treat it like a full-time job. Truly, if most people are not there, so you can't see that, but truly treat it like a full-time job. And yeah, 100% go back because I love it. It was really good fun. Like you get to travel around the world talking about Fortnite. Like that's a dream,
Amazing.
you know. Yeah, it truly is.
If tomorrow Fortnite suddenly stop,
Hmm.
would you go back finding a job as you had previously before the lockdown, or would you prefer to continue back on YouTube with your second channel, or going back to content still like gaming on your main channel?
It's a scary thought. It always is because there's a high possibility of that happening at the drop of a hat for many reasons. I think last year showed me that in particular, that like if you look at Fortnite content across the board since Fortnite's been released, it's actually done well for the majority of the time outside of that one period in Chapter 3, right? Like from the second half of Chapter 3, that's when content really just I like I said, I don't even know really what happened, but everything just did not do well, like I said, in the majority of channels. So it's a possibility. So it's something I've thought about a lot. I think my main goal would be two things. I think firstly, the Reese Explains channels that I have already started and need to continue doing, which I have struggled to get time on, would be like the one source of things to grow. And if Fortnite totally went down, I would probably turn the Reisshub channel into a different game. I don't know if I would do analytical content anymore because I'm not that deeply involved in any other games. Like, people have asked, like, would you go into Valorant or something like that? And I'm not like personally as interested in Valorant. So, it would be hard for me to get invested in the game to do analytical content, right? Because I like to put myself in the place of the player and understand it from that perspective and then go deeper and ask questions that way. Well, like I did in Fortnite, right? But if I'm not good in Valorant or not as interested, they're not going to do it. So what I'd more than likely do, quite frankly, is probably make the Reisshub channel like a Pokemon channel, and do like Pokemon videos. Like we're talking like Fortnite's just gone. Like there's
Yeah,
no
of
chance of me
course.
doing that anymore, and I have to turn it into something. I'd probably turn it down that route because Pokemon content A does really good, and B I love playing Pokemon. So like there's a lot I could do in that already. Actually, I did think about making another channel to do some Pokemon videos,
Long time ago.
but I was like, I have no time for that, man. I can't be doing
Yeah.
that. So I'd probably try and balance mainly the Reese Explains channel, and then this. The problem with that is like, there's just like a period of making like rubbish money. So that's why I'm trying to build up the Reese Explains channel on the side, so that if I ever need to drop out of Fortnite, I have something that's already potential to make me money at the time, right? Like, even if it's just making like a little bit, and then I can full time into it and build that up into like a successful full time channel. That's like my backup goal, essentially.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Scary thoughts, because it can happen,
of course, scary thought, but basically for every of us, even for me,
Yeah,
like
every
that's a
every
scary
single
thought.
person.
Of course.
Yeah, and like I don't have the luxury of being young anymore, Like I'm 30 now, so
30?
even yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I
true.
will be 30. I'll be 30 in September. Sorry, I'm aging
Yeah.
myself. I've got to hold on to these 20s while I
Don't
can.
make you
But
older.
but it is scary in a sense where even in gaming, I'm like, what do what I do look like in the next 10 years if Fortnite is
Yeah.
still running, So it's a scary thought regardless, but I think the only thing you can do is if you're like a self-employed person in the scene or in any gaming scene is just take each day as you can, do what you can, build up, try and make as much of yourself for the future as possible, but realistically, you can only control what you do today. So
Yeah.
focus on that.
Yeah, of course. Well, for the moment, I think I have no more questions. Well, I say for the moment,
Amazing.
but overall, I think I have no more questions. Have you any last words to say about, I don't know, your job? Any last thing you would like to say to the camera?
Firstly, thank you for the fantastic questions. They've been great. I would just say, like, I was thinking about recently, like Fortnite content in general, because obviously that's the thing where I spend a lot of my time doing. Someone make some good content, Like, there's the Fortnite competitive space is lacking in a lot of ways, and I'm gonna link this back to Pokemon again, right? if you've ever dived into like Pokemon content, you will see some insane things. Like the depths that people go to make incredible content is truly insane. We're talking like hundreds of hours into a video each. Same thing in like another game. Like I play old school RuneScape as well. Like the content people make in that game is insane, right? And when I look at the content that people make in those two games, and I'm sure there's in a bunch of other games as well, and then I come over and I look at like most Fortnite content, it's so fast. So like, I don't mean like pacing wise, it's just like we have to get as much content out as possible. We have to have such, I mean, realistically, across the board, such like low quality content. In my eyes, I'm going to be real. I don't think my content should stand out in amongst the rest, but I feel like it does because the rest of the content is very quick, very easy. You know, most people aren't putting a bunch of effort in. I saw a video recently, which was the console rewind, and it was awesome. So I'm going to shout that one out. I can't remember who did it, totally blanked. But I watched that and I was like, some effort. We've seen a lot of effort in a video, amazing, and it was really good. It paid off. But I feel like someone out there is listening, wants to make Fortnite content, make some put a lot of effort in. It'll be sick.
I just got another idea of a question.
Go for it.
Would you have any advice to give to any player who do not do any content, don't know, or don't want to do any content on socials? And yeah, I'm talking about Fastroke right now. I had this conversation with him yesterday.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I used to be a lot less sympathetic about this because, firstly, players are players, right? There is a big difference between a person who's a player and someone who's a content creator, like at heart, you know? They have a different mindset oftentimes. Sometimes you'll have a player and then when they age out in a game, they'll then turn into a content creator and they'll put that like passion they had into creating content. But I actually think this is where my sympathy comes in. I think it's very difficult for a player to actually have enough time to really commit to making content. I think what most players can do though is minimal effort content, which is ironic based on what I just said before. But like, and by minimal effort, I mean minimal time commitment, right? Like most people have an editor that are putting out content, right? They'll put tournament videos together, but every tournament video is the same. If you've watched one person's how I placed X in Cash Cup, you've watched them all. Like it's just a different season and a different spice, but like the actual style of video is nearly all the same. So I think finding ways to innovate that is number one, and figuring out basic storytelling is how you do it, right? Like I look at someone like Jiven, and if you look at the way content that Jiven's been putting out and like following his Cash Cups, it's basically the same content as everyone else, but with a great little touch of just some nice storytelling onto it that makes you actually care about the player involved, right? Like his videos are banging 100K plus views, and he's placing not as well as a lot of the pros would. And imagine if the pros were as consistent in making like that same style of content as he was. It's basically just adding a little bit of story, saying, "Hey, here's what I was trying to do, didn't work. Next game." You know, obviously I'm very much so oversimplifying it, but
I mean, that had some personality into the videos.
Yeah, exactly, right? And like that's, the problem is that what Jiven's doing in a sense, he's like the first one to do that style of content. But the problem is that everyone's doing a very close style of content already, and that I've already seen a lot of people copy his content, like mainly on smaller channels and things like you know, word for word. And I'm not telling people to do that. That's not what the goal is. But that style is like something that I swear in the next few years, tons of pros will do, because from like an actual player's perspective, it doesn't really take much more time commitment. Like you really just have to say, okay, before game one, I need to set up some sort of story. Between each game, I have some sort of story to build into the next one. Set up some sort of tension, and once they understand that, like your content is 10 times better already. So it's almost like I'm trying not to say to any pro player who's not making content, don't just copy that. I'm telling you, firstly, don't just copy that. But trying to find ways to innovate your content that doesn't take a lot of time. There are plenty of ways that you can do that, and it'll make it 10 times better, especially if you have like an editor on board, because ultimately, as a player, you should be playing and focusing on being the best player you can. But there's small things you can commit other parts of your time to that'll help build your brand and build that income as well.
All right, so I have no more question right now. So thanks for all your answer. Thanks for all your replies. That was actually really interesting and really fun on a few aspects. I didn't expect like Pokemon aspect to come in. Didn't expect like such a number of Pepsi bottles.
Oh no! I mean, these are old ones. I'll tell you. There's old ones sitting here. This is the only
Yeah, I
one for
guess.
today, right? Okay.
Just for
This one's
today.
yesterday. Just for today.
Already half
Yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah. It's the morning. It's the morning caffeine. You know. Gotta get you going.
Yeah, I guess. All right.
Indeed. That was fun. Thanks, man.
No worries.